Welcome to Early Days. I'm Jackie Rae Greening. This is the podcast where the seeds of innovation and entrepreneurship take root. It is proudly presented by Proust Chown. Dive deep into the journeys of trailblazers who are shaping the future, and this gentleman is one of them. Mike Mack of X5 Management, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really delighted and excited to be here.
And you're a Saskatchewan boy, I understand?
I am originally, yes, absolutely. So I'm proud of that, and I still root for the football team. I will comment on that. I'm a diehard Oilers fan. I have been for a long time, but blessed to be in Edmonton for 28 years now. So I regard myself as an Edmontonian. I love the city, I love the community, and the people that we get to serve as well. So,
what made you move to the city?
Well, in my former life, career-wise, I was a banker for a long time. So financial services allowed me to move from Saskatchewan to British Columbia, Prince George, and then back to Edmonton. So this has been home and not going anywhere anytime soon, unless it's a vacation in January.
Now that I understand.
Exactly.
So now you're in the banking industry, and then obviously you start to get itchy and thinking, I want to break out on my own. What was your thought process?
Yeah, well, there was a stint behind that yet as well. So I stayed a little further in financial services, was in the insurance for a while, did a small stint in nonprofit, and like any entrepreneur, I guess, starts with an idea. You know, there needs to be more. I'd like to control my destiny, if you will. And that really became the catalyst of starting X5 Management, which I created in 2006. But what was interesting, Jackie, is that I had that concept about a year before. So the summer of 2005, started to build that out. I did some freelance work through NATE in Edmonton in terms of working with some corporate clients and becoming a master instructor so you can hang with all the appropriate clientele ideally. So I have to give NATE a ton of credit in terms of that catalyst. And then like any decision when you become an entrepreneur, you take that leap of faith and you leave a regular paying job to go out on your own and hope you can feed yourself and your family. So happy to say that has been the trend over the last almost 18 years. So.
18 years you've been doing it. So why did you think, because you're a renowned leadership coach now, so why, and was that the vision right from the beginning?
Great question. Quick answer was no, to say that I'm renowned. I'm flattered that you would even suggest that today. But I think it's been an evolution. You know, I was fortunate in my banking career, and I have to give a good plug at that time, where I had privileged opportunity to do some leadership development and also do some facilitation. They had launched out a national sales management program back then. This goes back in Saskatchewan, like 1993. And I think it was a bit of a springboard of going, you know what, something I'm actually really passionate about doing. So when, you know, the baby beginnings of X5 Management, if you will, started off where, what would I be doing? So obviously I'm going to do some training, I'll do some consulting. If I can coach people, back then was more sales management related. Today we do a lot of coaching on the executive side, leadership. But that was just that, you know, starting out. And I think like most entrepreneurs, how do I replace my full-time income? Honestly, that was really the vision for that first year. And proud to say that I've done that and then some and never went backwards, notwithstanding some major hardship in the first 3 years of starting the business as well. So
when you're starting a business like that, and as you say, it's a leap because now you have left the job that was paying you full time. So as you reflect back now, what was wish I had known that when I started the business?
Yeah, and I comment today, being in the coaching business that we are, and I have privilege to have a team surrounding me as well. I'm way smarter today. I have a lot more wisdom today in that regard. But I definitely had the drive and I had the passion. I had some mentorship at that time back in the day from some successful entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, it's still the leap. You got to fly the nest. You got to fly the coop, if you will, and be ready to take it out on your own and burn the boats, if you will, and be ready to do that. So that NATE story that I talked about, one of the blessings and good fortunes I had in the early stages is that I met one of our very first corporate clients at the time that became a very important client over the first few years of business, which by great fate and fortune that occurred, that really was the catalyst to feed the machine, if you will, and protect the family while I started out on my own. So.
And X5, why X5?
You are probably the 1,000th person that have asked me that question over time. And it's interesting. I think I answer it the same way most times, but you know, inevitably I always wanted to be more than myself. That was always the goal. If I'm going to start a business, I didn't want it to be Mike Mack Inc. or otherwise. Originally, the story is that the branded X5 was a lowercase x. And then eventually, year one, everybody started to call it ×5, and that drove me crazy. So I had to get that modified to a nice capital X. But really, it was a bit of an X factor, the multiplier effect of how you can grow and develop. I was heavily into professional development back in the day. I'm fortunate to have my MBA completed through Athabasca University before I had started X5. And really, that's where it was a multiplier. How do we make things better? So not a lot of marketing strategy behind that. Management was a broad word that wasn't consulting. It was like, I think I'm going to do more than consulting, which we do today, but we do corporate training, we do leadership development and executive coaching. So proud of how that's unfolded today in its simplest form, but now more people that know me would reference it as how's things at X5. So it's created its own brand kind of beyond X5 management, which I'm really proud of.
And obviously as you should be. And X5 management, when for entrepreneurs that are listening in, we always like to try to give them some nugget where they go, oh, so with this, is there a lot of cash outlay at the beginning with a company like this? And then also, how do you get those clients? How do you market a company that's brand new like that?
Great question. Well, on the front end, the good news is there wasn't a lot of cash outlay because I didn't have a lot of cash back in the day starting off, and had to convince my then wife, ex-wife now at that time, relative to, hey, we're going to quit a good paying job and living in St. Albert at the time in terms of how we do that. So really the strategy was, I was always the relationship guy. I'm a networking kind of guy in the Edmonton community, and I didn't know as many people as I do today. So my network was really critical to establish that. And I go back to that Nate connection and finding that one original client that really funded the growth of the organization in early stages. So that was important. One of my favorite lines today is leave nothing to chance. So if you had one client, well, you had to get another one, and keep it going. And the first 2 to 3 years were and have been the most challenging. And if I think back of first year in, pretty successful, replace my income, lose my amazing mother to cancer at that time within 12 months of that. Sadly, 1 year later, my marriage unfolds, and then 2009, those that are familiar with that in Alberta, it wasn't a dreamy year in Alberta at that time. So school of hard knocks in those first 2 to 3 years that really put some scales on the back, if you will, and toughened you up a little bit at that time. And fortunately able to persevere through that and kind of rise above that. And now I'm in a much better place today as we approach year 18 by far. But humble beginnings, but really admire the kind of the fortitude that I had to go through at that time. Because I look at it, I'm not certain I'd be where I am if I didn't have that adversity back then. And I'm certain many entrepreneurs that may listen to this can relate to that journey. It's not all roses and sunshine.
Yeah. Oh, but you got to celebrate your successes, 100%. But you also had enough focus to say, okay, we got one client. Where's the next one? You got to keep moving forward. You can't just sit back and,
for sure.
Okay, it's happening now. Bring it in.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, leave nothing to chance. And again, keep on keeping on, I guess, in the challenging times. So grateful of that journey.
So now that you work with, and you've transform teams and leaders, that's what you do. Can you share an experience that you go, oh, that was a big win for that company, and you felt that it was a win for you as well? There's a lot, and I'm grateful for that. And I always say, well, we get paid reasonably well to do what we do. I would do it for free if I could because I love it that much. But there's a couple notable stories that I think back on, and this is one of those earlier days of one of our first clients where they had a lot of adversity, succession planning with their son. He sadly and tragically passed away at a young age. Then there was another tragedy in that particular business. So feeling that I played a bit of the glue in that regard to kind of hold everybody together at that time, and I take no credit for that, but my skills allowed me to be able to do that. And even though they're no longer a client from 17 years ago, I still have a relationship with that organization. I get invited out to their 30th and 40th anniversaries and so on. I think the other notable one that's maybe more recent, we work in a lot of family-based enterprise as well. So mother, daughter, father, son, whatever the case may be. So some recent successes over the last number of years is helping elevate that succession plan with a family member that they're at a certain level, but they're going to go to the C-suite, and we had to help them be ready for that. And personally, I was involved in that particular
client relationship, which we still enjoy today. So there was a lot of moving parts to that to refine and shape and mold to get that particular leader ready to take on the big chair. And thus far, being a year into that particular role now today, things have been going quite well. So I'm very, very grateful. So those are a couple notable examples of what I get up and my team gets up in the morning to do as well. So.
Well, and you said earlier something you had a passion for, and that's something in doing this series for Prowse Chown that I've really found is that everybody speaks about the passion they have. It really is a key to it in a lot of ways, isn't it?
100%. It's, as they say, it's your calling. And I'm in the people business, so at the end of the day, and I don't have a lot of personal stress in my life, but I deal with stressful situations literally every single day, as does my team. And you take that responsibility very seriously to be part of the good of what you can do for them. That's what we do. We're here to be of great value to their organization, and most of them recognize that, and that's how they continue to be clients of ours for many, many years as well. So, a blessing. As you continue to build the brand at X5, and it is, you're always building, always 100%. Moving, always, and then you decide, okay, it's time to become an author. Sure. Tell us about your very first book, because you have 4 books now. Tell us about the first one. Yeah, so if I look back at that, interesting, truth be told, I have another book that's kind of parked that would have been my first book back in the day. The first book that we ended up publishing was Remarkable Service, How to Keep Your Doors Open. And really, if you think about that, living in Alberta as long as we have, just relative to the ups and downs, the good times and the bad times of oil and gas or our hockey team or whatever the case may be, or a football team for that matter, I felt there was something there, not only that maybe we can monetize on that as a book, Remarkable Service, doing a lot of corporate training with that, but that there was a message there. So a lot of stories in the book about remarkable service, but more importantly, how to keep your doors open, be it in the good times or challenging times. So lots of tips and tricks, but stories that were narrated and threaded along the way, ranging from restaurants in Europe to car dealerships or otherwise. So that became a kind of the catalyst. Very grateful that book became a bestseller. Monetized that quite well in that regard. That was in 2017. The second book, just for reference, very different, which was Relationships for Keeps, and kind of loosely depicts my journey, my personal and professional journey. That book didn't make me a lot of money, but I didn't write it for that purpose. It was a book that I needed to write to kind of narrate, where did I come from and where am I at today? And it was always all about relationships. So that one, ironically, I'm incredibly proud of, even though it was a bestseller, but it wasn't about that I made a bunch of money and I'm rich and famous, but it was something that it hold in my heart today. And I dedicated those books. Every book has been dedicated to someone back then. So that was one of my mentors dedicated that book to, and he's still alive and well at 89 years of age in Vancouver. And give a plug out to Arnold, my friend. And when I was remarried a number of years ago, he was the best man at my wedding as well. So that's a relationship for keeps, particular kind of memory that I have there. So. And then your third book? Third book was co-authored with my colleague Chris Schinke. I have to give her a lot of credit because she did a lot of work on that one. That particular book was How to Stop the Revolving Door. And it was really a value add for our clients, our business clients and organizations. How do we help retain people? And we live in that world of revolving doors, if you will. People are looking for greener pastures all the time. So that was more of a value add. Didn't become a bestseller because we gave away most of those books by design. It was a value add. It's a little journal that if you and your organization can benefit from that, that was really the intent. Something we were both incredibly proud of to give back, if you will, to the community. That was really the intent. And here and now, this day and age, especially, it's not like in our parents' day when you started working at CN and you'd be there for 40 years. Sure. And now that a long career at a business is going to be unheard of. 100%. So what would be something about retention that you could give as a piece of advice to somebody listening? Well, and there's a big list on that, but in the lane that we play in, so our tagline is aligning leaders and teams to achieve. That's our X5 tagline. And it really starts with that culture. There's obviously some organizations that are able to retain people better than others. What is it? Is it about the pay? Money is important in today's economic times, and inflation and everything goes up. But loving what you do and going to work and enjoying your colleagues is a big deal. So there's many organizations out there that do it incredibly well. So generally starts with leadership from the top to that frontline leadership, how we take care of team members, listening to their concerns and challenges, and have an open mind, exchange perspective, be receptive to concerns that may be addressed, and don't make it all about the corporate policy. Still have to protect the organization. But those organizations that have been able to do that well have had better success on the retention side, for sure. So those are a couple little nuggets that come to mind.
I so agree with that. And now book number 4, we get to see it right here, Lunch with Leaders.
You bet.
And you've branded this, you've trademarked this.
I have, exactly. And it's just in kind of final stages of that process. You got to go through a process where I have to give credit to a business colleague of mine in the community. Go, Mike, you should brand that because there's something there. We've also started a Lunch with Leaders series where we're getting together with 7 or 8 executives or frontline leaders, whatever the case may be, just to build a bit of a network. And really, when we get together for lunch, we talk about leadership. The catalyst of the book was a vision of mine about 2.5 years ago. So this particular book came out on Amazon January 30th of 2024. So it's fairly new. The dream was when I started X5, I had the privilege of starting to get to know some people. While I had a network, I have a much bigger network today. And it was always this vision, like, what if you could just sit down and have lunch or a coffee with some wise individual that, be it owned a business or could add value to you in your life and so on. And that really became the catalyst. So Lunch with Leaders was my idea. It was a simple concept, but I have to get credit to a few people that are in the book because I've enjoyed a number of lunches with them over the years. And while they may have been our client or are our client today, I realized when I left the lunch, I actually learned more from them than they would have learned from me. So I had the privilege of interviewing 12 top leaders and executives in a number of industries. 8 of 12 are Edmonton based. We have a couple in Calgary, and then we have 2 in Toronto as well. So basically interviewed them. I ended up doing an audio transcript of that and then making some sense out of that chapter. So it's really intended to be in their words about their journey. And the theme, if you were to say, the tagline is real stories of pivotal moments for today's executive. Well, in life and in business and in leadership, there's a ton of pivotal moments. Could have went left, could have went right. What would I have done if I had that opportunity or not? So that's really what the book is about, told in their words predominantly. And I just had the privilege of kind of putting it together and being part of that interview process as well. So something I'm very proud of. And when this particular book came out, I was probably the most nervous of any of them, simply because, number one, I wanted the people in the book to feel great about their chapter. So that was almost the early stages of the feedback. Wow, I sound reasonably intelligent, for example. So those were some of the messages that came out from people who were in the book, and they're all incredible leaders. So again, more of a privilege than anything, and coming out on audio shortly as well, because nowadays you got to kind of print it and you got to put it together on Audible as well. So
I'd be intrigued. Did you find a common thread between the 12?
For sure. I think a few things that came out, when you think about pivotal moments, it's about courage, it's about resilience, it's about perseverance, leaning on other people, not having all the answers, taking risk, but hopefully calculated risk more than not, taking care of people, protecting your family, protecting your colleagues, etc. So those are probably some of the notable items, and many are family-related businesses as well, but those are probably the 4 or 5 nuggets that have a thread related to all the chapters as well.
Did you leave one lunch going, oh, wow, what a story?
I would love to say that was the case in all cases. Every story is different. Some of the stories resonated differently with other people, but they were all fantastic. And I mean, I've read the book 7 or 8 times myself, going through the process. And as you would finish a chapter, you're like, that's a great story, because it's their words and it's their story. And to them, they might think it's nothing until somebody else in the book read it and go, wow, that's a great story, because everybody has a story. And they did a tremendous job of being vulnerable to an extent, of kind of sharing their story. They didn't talk about all the riches. They talked about all the hardship and the challenge that they dealt with to get where they are today. So that was something I'm really proud of.
I think too, with a lot of the early days interviews that we do, you hear that from so many entrepreneurs, that it was the mistakes that 100%. They learned way more than all the successes.
Absolutely.
Right?
You got it, for sure.
Do you have some win stories, where you really significantly boosted customer satisfaction and employee retention with some of the businesses that you have worked with, where that we could take that as a nugget? Did you have a real big win somewhere?
Well, there's several of those, but one of the big wins, and I think the big win came for me as much as for the client. And I have to give a plug to our longest standing client since starting the business has been Stoll Peterbilt. They are an elite organization, great leadership, and the privilege of working with them over the last 12 years is really simple. How can X5 help out with our people, our culture, and our customer service? And you need both of those. So if somebody calls us to say, we need help with customer service, it's about the people. So if you take care of your people will take care of the customers. And the plug and the credit to them is that they live and breathe that every single day. I've been fortunate, X5 has been fortunate to be a catalyst to supplement and support that. But there's been a lot to work with there over a very long period of time. And they've won countless platinum awards on the customer service side because it's so consistent. At the same time, the culture, the retention, second to none. So as much as anything, just incredibly proud and privileged just to be part of that organization. So there's many more, but just singling one example out for sure, they're an elite group of people in that organization.
I would think some businesses too, maybe that hire X5, maybe you right the ship and then suddenly, thanks a lot, we don't need you anymore, Mike.
100%.
And some may retain it, some may not. It probably is different for every company.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that we work hard on, whether it be in leadership development or customer service, is, the simple things get implemented as well. If you make it too complicated, that's where, after the great session or the time together, they wean off and their habits resume back to that. And again, evidenced by even the relationship with Stoll Peterbilt after 12 plus years, we're still part of that. And it's we'll call it maintenance, but it's elite maintenance. Like they're at a level not, we got to be way better. They just take nothing for granted ever in what they do. So.
That is a sign of a great business.
Indeed.
Do you guide organizations on developing and executing strategic plans, I would imagine?
We do as well. And the reality of that is, much like if you think about the global pandemic, when you think about a plan, well, what happens if a black swan event occurs or something major occurs? We always look at kind of three basic areas from an effective strategic plan, at least in our lane: vision, alignment, and execution. Many organizations, if they have a strategic plan, for example, they got a plan, it's exciting, but you got to make sure everybody on the team is on the same page to help with that plan. And inevitably, how do we execute the plan? So don't have too many ideas that you're going to implement, because if you do, rarely do they all get executed or implemented. So
lose focus, I would
100%.
imagine.
So 3 or 5 key strategic objectives that you can operationalize, generally speaking, is far more effective. You can't fix everything end to end, in 1 year, for example.
I would imagine you would go into these companies too, and no one company's the same. So you custom make it for that company.
Well, we have, as we say, we try to tailor almost everything that we do, because if we're dealing in home building or automotive industry or manufacturing or large construction, whatever that may be, the common link is people, but the industry challenges and dynamics have an impact on their business. So we have to be apprised of what that is. And the longer we get to work with a client, if we've served them for a long period of time, you literally start to understand the industry way more than you ever realized in terms of trucking or home building or otherwise. You start to fundamentally understand the key moving parts of what makes that business tick.
Are there any emerging trends that businesses should be aware of in relation to leadership and teams that they're working with?
Well, it's interesting. I think some of the old philosophies of great leadership and, be effective communicators and be good at what you do and share the plan with the team to keep them engaged. Obviously, the topic of conversation of late and leveraging technologies and artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's a topic of conversation. We're even trying to optimize that even more within X5 to be more efficient. I think the common theme that still comes out, soft skills and great communication skills still win the day, be it internally or externally. And that's something we're really proud of, because we're in that lane. And you'd say, well, AI affect us down the road? Perhaps. But assuming we're still getting to have a conversation like this, Jackie, for example, it's something that never lose sight of that. You can automate a bunch of things, but you still have to talk to your people. You still have to talk to your clients, your suppliers. So the simple things are still, leave nothing to chance on that one as well. Make it important and protect that and protect the people. And that's how you retain people as well. Whether you're leading in technology or not, again, you can't automate absolutely everything.
So. Oh, I so agree. Any final words of advice for our entrepreneurs listening?
I think continue to move forward with courage as well. Be excited about what you bring to the table, what your organization brings to the table. I learned this value model a number of years ago that I'll share. It's kind of a Venn diagram, 3 overlapping circles. And if you look at number 1, creating value. So most entrepreneurs over time or business leaders have created some form of value. They're selling a widget or they manufactured a widget. The second one was demonstrate value. And that's one that we think about all the time. You have to demonstrate value before the check is cut. You might be doing that with a prospective client or even an existing client. And then finally, deliver value. You get the call back if you are good at what you do. If the lawn got installed or turf was laid at the right time, etc., they call you back, you'll get referrals. So those are some of the kind of the basic philosophies. And the line that my team is probably tired of me saying, but leaving nothing to chance. Never get complacent, even if you're high on success or otherwise. If times are tough, lean on people, whether it's outside support or other members of your team or other executive forums that may exist out there, one leader to another. You're bound to get some insight when times are challenging. So you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to operate in a silo, if you will.
Oh, great piece of advice. Mike Mack from X5 Management. Again, the book is Lunch with Leaders. It is out now. And as we close today's episode of Early Days, it's brought to you by Prowse Chown. Remember, every entrepreneurial journey has its unique challenges. And from navigating legal intricacies with Prowse Chown's expertise in areas, there's administrative law, dispute resolution, intellectual property. There's a lot to learn, isn't there?
Indeed.
Prowse Chown can do it for you. Mike, this has been awesome. Thank you so very much.
You were a delight to speak with this afternoon as well. So thank you again for the opportunity.
This series is proudly produced by the team at Road 55. Road 55 creates content that connects. For more information, check our website, www.road55.ca.